America's illusion of freedom, how Israel controls Washington and governs the American people. My brothers and sisters, I speak to you not as a politician, not as a scholar, but as one who loves truth enough to tell it the truth so many fear to say. There is a sentence people feel deep in their bones but are told never to utter, that when it comes to Israel, Washington does not lead, it obeys. Policies are drafted, votes are cast, billions are wired, and vetoes are slammed on the table in New York again and again, no matter who sits in the Oval Office. If sovereignty means the power to decide your own course, then ask yourselves, who decides America's course on Israel? Start with the money, because money is policy, and policy is power. In 2016, the government committed the largest military aid promise in United States history to any nation, a 10-year package of $38 billion for Israel. That is $3.8 billion every single year, locked in beyond elections and party changes. Since October 2023, Congress has added billions more in emergency supplemental funding for Israeli defenses and missile programs extra, on top of the guaranteed stream. These appropriations are so entrenched, they function like an iron law of Washington, untouchable by deficits, public opinion, or even the death toll of innocent people. Now look at the veto, the blunt instrument that reveals who calls the shots. Time after time, when nearly the entire international community votes to stop the bloodshed, Washington says no, alone or nearly alone. The United States has wielded its veto power on Israel-related measures over and over, from the Cold War to the present Gaza war, killing ceasefire resolutions supported by almost every nation. Even recently, as famine warnings sounded and entire populations were displaced, America raised its hand to block an immediate ceasefire. My brothers and sisters, if a foreign policy were a reflex, this would be it. And then, Congress, supposedly the people's house, a battlefield of ideas becomes a chamber of obedience. In April 2024, the House passed an Israel aid bill by 366 to 58. Days later, a $95 billion package with $17 billion specifically for Israel cleared the Senate with a 79 to 18 landslide. On every other issue, bitter fights rage. But when Israel calls, both parties march in step. That is not democracy. That is muscle memory. At the state level, the story is the same. Dozens of states have passed anti-BDS laws that punish Americans and businesses for engaging in a peaceful boycott, the same kind of political expression that built nations, from the Boston Tea Party to the Civil Rights Movement. Whether you agree with BDS or not, the fact is clear. People are punished for criticizing one foreign government. That is not freedom of speech. That is speech fenced in. And behind all of this sits AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, the most feared lobby in Washington. It doesn't just lobby, it disciplines. Presidents from Johnson to Biden, senators and congressmen from both parties, and yes, Donald Trump himself, all know there's no safe distance from AIPAC's reach. Trump called himself the best friend Israel ever had. Biden calls himself a Zionist. Democrats and Republicans alike wear the label proudly. Whether Jewish or not, they stand before the cameras and declare their loyalty to Zionism, making clear that when it comes to Israel, there is no opposition, only obedience. But here is what many fear to admit. Most of these leaders, senators, presidents, and policymakers openly identify as Zionists. Some are Jewish, many are not. But their allegiance to Zionism is declared without shame and without balance. They pledge their loyalty not to their own people first, but to an ideology that puts the interests of Israel above all else. When both Republican and Democrat presidents call themselves Zionists, when members of Congress wear it like a badge of honor, then understand this truth. The system is not just influenced by Zionism, it is run by it. And what does this obedience buy? Impunity. Israel receives more United States aid than any nation, yet faces none of the conditions demanded of others. It expands illegal settlements, bombs civilian neighborhoods, detains children, blockades entire populations, and never faces sanctions or punishment. Any other nation would be condemned. Israel is shielded. The shield is automatic. The veto is automatic. The applause in Congress is automatic. And here is the truth. Washington hides. Soldiers of this nation have been sent again and again into Middle Eastern wars sold as national security. But the real beneficiaries were not ordinary citizens. They bled and died in deserts and streets for wars that served Israeli strategic goals and drained the lifeblood of their own homeland. They were told they were fighting for freedom, democracy, and security, but not for their own. Meanwhile, powerful religious movements convince millions of Christians that their support for Israel is holy. Entire congregations are mobilized by apocalyptic theology, and politicians stand in pulpits quoting scripture, promising billions in weapons as if it were divine duty. This is not faith. This is manipulation of faith. It is politics wrapped in the language of God. Brothers and sisters, people are being fooled into funding, fighting, and dying for the priorities of a foreign country while their own communities crumble. Fooled into thinking silence is patriotism and questioning is betrayal. Fooled into believing they still have a government when on this issue they live under a veto and it isn't theirs. Add it all together, the billions in guaranteed aid, the automatic vetoes, the landslide votes, the anti-BDS laws, the lobbying might of AIPAC, the presidents and prime ministers who obey, the impunity that follows, the soldiers sent to wars that are not theirs, the manipulation of Christianity to sanctify it all, and the fact that most of those in power, Trump, Biden, and nearly all of Congress proudly wear the label of Zionist, and the truth emerges, the people are not self-governing. They are being governed by forces that defend the interests of another state above debate, above accountability, and above conscience. This is not a call to hate anyone. This is a call to love truth enough to see clearly. A nation that cannot say no is not free. A Congress that fears a donor list more than betraying its voters has forgotten who it serves. A diplomacy that shields one nation from consequence while the world cries enough is not diplomacy, it is dependency. Some will say this is about shared values. But if values mean unending subsidies, unbreakable vetoes, and unthinkable silence in the face of mass suffering, then those are not values at all. Those are the habits of a government captured and a people deceived. My brothers and sisters, it does not have to be this way. People can reclaim the first principle etched into their bones. Government by the consent of the governed. That means money and politics must be confronted, not worshipped. That means laws that punish political boycotts must be repealed, not enforced. That means when the world cries out for ceasefire, America listens and leads instead of raising its hand in veto. The question is not whether Israel is an ally. The question is whether this nation is still a sovereign democracy, and the evidence says no. Budgets, votes, vetoes, laws, even wars are bent around a single axis. That is why so many feel what headlines refuse to say, that they live under an Israeli veto on their own soil. And so, brothers and sisters, here is the warning. If you continue to look away, if you allow this grip to harden, you will wake one day to find your constitution hollow, your elections reduced to theater, your freedoms traded for silence, and your sons and daughters sent to fight and die in wars that are not theirs. Every nation that surrenders its sovereignty eventually surrenders its soul. So I tell you now, do not wait for leaders bought and bent to save you. Do not wait for others to fight for your freedom. Stand up, speak out, take back your country. Because a people who cannot stand up for their own country will soon have no country left to stand on.